Stay tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. Joan served the state of California as a member on the Arts Council and on the Film Commission. She was formerly on the Architectural Commission and fulfilled 2 terms on the Fine Arts Commission for the city of Beverly Hills. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview magazine, Condé Nast Publications, and the Hearst Corporation, Joan covered the world of fashion, the mysteries of food, the excitement of theater, and the international art scene. She continues to find people who are on the cutting edge of their professions. Here's Joan AGAJAINIan Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. We're taping here at the Hollywood Museum on Highland Avenue in the heart of Hollywood. Today, we're back with artist JohnEden, who was raised in what he calls CalArts country, otherwise known as Santa Clarita Valley. He earned a BFA at San Francisco Art Institute in film, a master's at Cal State Northridge, and his Master of Fine Arts in Painting at USC. His work has been exhibited in California galleries, and there was a little space in time from the 80s to now. But when I met him, it was in 2012 and 13 at Catherine Cohn's gallery, where she showed 2 beautiful pieces. She had a show called Rouge, and you don't know Jack, who was Jack Brogan.
Right.
So tell us how you got involved in that. First of all, why did you take film?
Because it was the thing to do. It was the medium of the future, and the problem was that during that time I took a painting class, and then from that point on I was really kind of addicted to paint, and I realized that film was more of an ensemble situation, and I'm more of a loner type.
Oh, more of a loner, which is an artist, but you
Right.
also took intermedia.
Yes, kind of
classes?
2D, 3D
that kind of
sculpture, and here I am back in sculpture.
But that worked for you.
It did work for me.
Did the film work for you?
Not really. I mean, I don't think there's a real tie-in with my work in film.
So you followed your heart going to
The Art Institute, yes.
and doing painting.
Yes. Yes, I do. I mean, I took the one class from Mary O'Neill, a painting teacher there, wonderful woman, and she just, it just blew me away, and I just knew that that's what I wanted to do.
And why did it take me so long between when you went to school to Catherine Cohn's gallery, where you were in 2 shows with her?
Well, in the late 80s, I was showing with Ace Gallery here in LA.
And what were you showing there?
I was showing paintings principally, and the funny story about that is I had one sculptural piece in the show, and I was living in downtown at the Citizens Warehouse, and my neighbor was John McCracken,
who was
the plank artist, and he told me to stick with painting, don't do sculpture.
Is that right?
Yeah.
But you know, the piece you had at Katie's gallery, Red Coffin, reminded me a lot of McCracken's
It was
work.
an homage to John, actually.
Good for me. It was, because it reminded me of that.
Interesting story about that, because I started it 2 years before he passed away. I didn't know that he was sick at all, and I worked with Jack Brogan on that, because Jack did a lot of work for John's work, and he knew the exact color that I wanted. I wanted that Corvette red that John McCracken so famously used.
And his planks were laid against the wall,
correct.
And your coffin stood alone, right? Standing.
Yes, and also leaning against the wall,
leaning
which was
against
a real tongue-in-cheek reference to John. But I love the guy, I love his work, and it wasn't a send-up necessarily. Well, you know, the faceted element of the coffin really kind of spoke to Cubist sculpture.
And jewels. It
Yes.
looked like jeweled facets to me.
And so I was just, I started out, I wanted to do a homage to John, and he was interested in the doors of perception. He was a very interesting character, and so I wanted to use those facets and reflect the room back into the piece, and so the viewers could be part of the piece as they walked around.
And the piece we're talking about is the show called You Don't Know Jack, right?
No,
that was the Rouge.
That was the Rouge show.
The Rouge show. What else was in that? Did you have another piece in that?
No, just one piece in that.
And who was included in that show?
Shepard Farley, John Van Hammersveld, the guy that did the
John
Beatles.
Van Hammersveld and Shepard Fairey. And Cavalera. Was Cosmo in that?
No, Cosmo was in one of the other Jack shows.
One of the other Jack shows.
Right.
Because there were 2 homages to Jack. Tell us about Jack Brogan.
Jack Brogan is a man that I've known for a long time. He was close friends with Edith Bauman and Lucius Hudson when they were married, and Lucius passed away, and I was friends with Lucius, and so I know Edith, knew Edith through, and we've had a long friendship, and then when they married, I got to know Jack.
And Edith Bauman is a brilliant painter.
She certainly is.
She's such a colorist, and she just makes everything work. It just pops off the canvas. We've had her on the show.
Oh, great.
And we adore her work. I mean, it's like so stimulating, isn't it?
It certainly is. I agree.
So here you are, you're painting at Ace, but Kraken's telling you not to give up painting.
Right.
And you gave up painting, I think.
Well, I think what I know, I kept painting. I went into my studio, and for a 10-year period, I just kept painting. And I thought that if I made really, really great paintings, that somebody would come and see that they were great, and but nobody came.
But that's what happens to an artist, right?
That's right.
If you're not working every day and painting every day, you're not an artist.
That's right. I was working and painting, but I wasn't out there on the street getting my art out there, and I needed to do that. That was a problem that I had.
Is that what happened between the 2000s and the 80s? Because
yes,
you were like showing a lot into the late 80s.
Correct.
Then you started showing again in the 2000s.
Correct.
But you were painting all the time.
I was painting all the time. I was building my studio in the first part of the 90s, but I was painting, and but it just after 100 years of abstraction, I think it's really hard to be original with abstract painting. It's a very tough, that's a tough issue.
It's a very tough issue because people have to understand it. Even if it's abstract, they have to understand what you're doing, right?
Right.
And one of the things that I think was a balance to you, you say, or interesting in that abstract balance, was going to Las Vegas and watching that. Is it the Cosmopolitan Hotel? What hotel was that?
It was the City Center. It was the City Center.
Yeah.
The new part.
That new hotel.
Yes.
And Jack was working on the Henry Moore sculpture.
Yes, I was working with Jack on that sculpture, and we were.
It was right out in front of the entry, I think.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
The reception, and the reception had a Maya Lin.
Correct, and I was really taken by the Maya Lin because it was called Silver River.
It's beautiful.
And it's a topographical rendering of the Colorado River as it snakes through the Grand Canyon. And if anything really kind of reflects Las Vegas, in my mind, is the water, the river that feeds the city, and also the Boulder Dam that generates the electricity for all the beautiful lights there. So it's really all predicated on that river.
But it was very abstract.
It was totally abstract.
And so, but what you're saying is, did that influence you then to go back and work?
Well, no, it didn't influence me, but what it did is it reinforced what I was doing with this piece. I had two bouts with head and neck cancer.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Because I read that, I mean, when I was looking at your bio, you talked about actually using the CT scans as art.
Correct. And I wanted to do the traditional portrait, self-portrait, the artist's self-portrait. And I thought, what more appropriate thing to do is to use a CT scan, a real scan of my head, and then make fun of my own mortality, because I just thought, you know, I'm just going to poke back. I'm not going to.
Was that part of the time when you weren't working or when you weren't showing? Or
no, that was when I came out. I was like fighting for my life, and it really, you know, I really realized that I needed to be an artist and do this and get out there and get my work out.
So a revelation.
It was.
It was a revelation.
It was an odd gift.
Very interesting.
If cancer can be a gift, it was an odd gift.
Tell me where this was.
Is
this the Pale series?
No. This was a piece that has never been shown, but it's exactly the same image that was in You Don't Know Jack, his first show.
I see.
But it was the black. I had a black sphere in that one.
And
show.
And does Jack make them?
No, I make these.
Oh, you make these. Did you make the coffin?
I made the coffin and Jack painted it for me, but I fabricated it.
I see. And then I'm going to just show a couple of these.
Okay. And yes, and that's brass coating, copper plating.
Is this a
copper plated an STL? It's a computer generated piece.
And this one I call a bell.
Yes, that is a bell, and it's called It's called Baldassari's Red Menace
because we love John Baldessari.
Yeah, we love
too.
John Baldessari, but I thought he didn't like plastic art very much in the 70s. He really, you know, and I thought it would be funny, and I do like to have humor in my work, and so I thought that I would do a beautiful red bell and make it out of the resin, clear cast resin.
Can you see through it?
Oh, absolutely.
It's gorgeous. But the interesting thing is, I think, the hat trick. And you brought me the book that tells all about it.
Right.
But tell us a little bit about the hat trick.
Okay, well, Jack Brogan and I were having lunch one Friday, and he mentioned the fact that at Caltech, they've developed a process, or they're in the process of developing a process where they can make steel objects, but it's actually clear and it looks like glass. It's as hard as steel, but it's a glass-looking material. And I wanted to, and it got me thinking about, wouldn't it be fun to do to scan Larry Bell's hat and then have it made in glass so I can cross-reference his famous cubes that he makes.
And Larry Bell loves to wear hats. This is a really funny old photo of him and his hat and his walking stick.
Yes.
This is iconic, this photograph. So the other thing, then this whole book is about the process of doing the hat.
Correct.
But your latest work is, what do you call them? Rondell military?
Rondels, and
Is this one?
Correct. And basically, rondel is an outgrowth of the French Revolution. Napoleon's troops had the little ribbons in their hats, and then during World War I, the French and the English took that image and put them on the side of their aircraft, and that started a whole tradition of aircraft, military aircraft, with these rondels.
So they're painted on. These were painted on the sides of different types of planes.
Airplanes, yeah. And
what do the colors signify?
Okay, well, this is Spain. This is Serbia. This is, let's see, red would be China, and Albania, and you say China red.
Were they? Yes. Were they from the same period, or
no? All through history, I chose the Chinese, the red Chinese, because it was when they were occupied by the Japanese. And I didn't want to pick the ones that most people identify with the countries. I wanted to do more obscure images, designs.
So what kind of materials do you use yourself in your studio now?
I do everything. I haven't done stone, but I do a lot of metals, and the Rondell series are fiberglass with metal flake.
Can you form those in fiberglass?
Actually, well, no. I had to form it by hand with a sculptor's foam.
But you do that. You make the whole thing.
I do absolutely the whole thing.
And then coloring it.
I spray paint it myself,
Oh,
and
I
I do the
see.
whole process.
I see.
I've worked with Jack long enough to learn a lot of his tricks.
Oh, I bet.
Not even this much of everything that he knows.
And then not even, I know, he knows so much. And then how, they have a stand in the back?
Well, okay, this is looking down at
I
it.
see.
And basically, these are corner pieces. I wanted to reference Malevich and his the Russian Orthodox. You know, he did the painting in the corner that was referenced the Orthodox church, really.
Right, yeah.
And so I wanted to, these mount in the corner, and they also float on a wall as
So
well.
they could be either way. They
Either
could float
way.
it. John, thank you so much for coming today and
Wow.
bringing all this material.
This went by so quick.
Thank you for being with us. And thanks. I'm going to wave to you all out there for watching the Joan Quinn Profiles. We'll see you next time.